Hello, this is the Android Guys Reviews Podcast. My name is Scott.
And I'm Luke.
Up ahead today, we're going to discuss a whole bunch of things.
All kinds of stuff.
And it's not all mobile related.
What?
Not all apps, games, products.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about some other things that we're into. Mm-hmm. The format of this is to basically kind of maybe catch some of the things that fall through the cracks in terms of maybe apps or games that we're reviewing that we don't put a full review out.
Sure.
Or a product that we're just kind of starting to test and haven't formed a full opinion. Mm-hmm. Maybe the occasional hot take.
Yep.
But then also just to kind of dive into some other topics of things that you're into, I'm into, things that are popular, and maybe we've had a chance to kind of form an opinion about that and share that with people. So it is different, but I think it'll be fun. So let's just jump right into it, Luke.
Sure.
Any apps or games that you've been playing lately? I know we review them, put them out basically daily. We'll take turns kind of sitting down to record those. But, I find myself sometimes scoring something and liking the app and kind of spending time with it, but then not ever coming back to it.
Right.
But then there are other things that I'll play and I kind of find myself beholden to more than I thought I was going to. Mm-hmm. I've got a couple games that do that to me. Anything that you've been checking out or reviewing that has really kind of stuck with you?
So I talked about a game called Marvel Strike Force a little bit ago, and I can't stop playing that game. It's one of those, like, they know what they're doing. Like, there's like in-app purchases. It's all Marvel based. You have a squad of Marvel heroes, and you're trying to fight. There's like campaign missions, and then you can be part of an alliance and fight other alliances. So there's like a war strategy, and then there's some PvP. Mm-hmm. And it's just Marvel based, and you're just building up characters and finding different armor pieces to put on and make people better and more powerful. And it's for some reason it's the type of game that I really like. I think it's the race to try and get all the characters. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't really care about PvP and being better than people. It's more like, I want to complete your Pokédex. Yeah, I want Namor. I want Invisible Woman. I want Lady Deathstrike. I finally unlocked Weapon or like Wolverine, and then So it's that I'm playing through. It's fun to see like people's different, how they do different heroes' skills. Like what maybe based on this person is. Namor, for instance, is water-based guy, is water superhero, but like, what are his attacks look like? Oh, well, he summons, big thing of water around everybody, and then some like spectral whale attacks you. Like, it's cool. So I haven't been able to stop playing that game.
Is it as soon as I wake up, I gotta check in and collect my stuff? And
so you get different resources as time goes on. So, and they get you like at noon. There's like a refresh of campaign energy, and then another one at like 9 p.m. Yeah. So they have you like Pavlov, like trained. Like, it's it's about lunchtime. I got a little bit of time to check my phone.
Oh, my kids are asleep and the day's over. Let's see what's up.
I'll knock out a couple missions here and whatever, and then if I only had a couple more pieces of this, I could get this next piece of armor. Oh, what do you know? They're in the shop for 99 cents.
Yeah.
So they know what they're doing. I am the sheep being led to the whatever.
Well, when a company does it right, you don't feel like it's that bad.
No, to me it's entertainment. I'm being entertained, so
even to drop a couple of real dollars on a game every so often is, with the right thing, it's super enjoyable because you start to pay for the experience. Yeah. You're not paying for these in-app purchase. You're like, no, I get a little bit more out of it. I enjoy the game. That was something that I learned to contend with early on with Pokemon Go.
Right.
It was one of the first games where I was like, yep, I'm going to put some money into this. And there would be weekends where my wife and I and my son, we'd all go out on community day and we would drop, $10, $20 each because, well, you need incubators. You have to have this and you need storage space.
Right.
And, well, if I'm dropping $10 today and, what's another $5 in a couple weeks from now?
Right.
So I know it's these microtransactions and I'm okay with that.
It's all about knowing what you're getting into.
Yeah.
And being able to, I guess maybe justify is the right word of like, I'm going to spend $10 going to the movies.
Yeah.
So
it's experience too.
Yeah.
It gives me 2 to 3 hours, maybe more. There were days where we would get in the car and drive around and try to complete tasks as a family and hit up all the parks and points of interest. And quite literally, some of these events would be 11 to 5, and we would spend 6 hours as a family doing this. Yeah. And to me, that's totally worth it.
Well, yeah, I mean, especially at being a parent, as kids get older, they want to spend less time with you.
Yep.
And if it's like, hey, if I have to spend $5 to get my kids to hang out with me for 6 hours, it's worth $5.
Well, and quality time is my love language.
Sure.
So when I get quality time with people, it goes twice as far.
Sure.
So for me to drop $10, it's like, no, I'm getting conversations and laughs and walk around the park and see things together and and then we go get something to eat and we'll sit there and trade Pokemon while we're waiting and then go back out and finish the day. So I can appreciate that. I haven't done that yet with the Stranger Things game, but that's a game where, as you were talking about Marvel, I've really I've slowed myself down. Sure. I had a wake-up call last week when I looked at
digital well-being,
and it told me how many hours. That was I don't want to get into specifics.
No. Let's not talk hard numbers.
Yeah, but I wake up in the morning and I collect my stuff.
Yep.
The game's designed that after 8 hours you can't collect anything. So theoretically, 3 times a day you can get your max.
Yeah.
So I'll collect that stuff, and then a portal will open up, and I'll spend 15 minutes going through that, and then I'll power up my guys and see how far I can get with those, and then I might collect some items in my backpack and power up some little things, and then be done for a little bit. But again, with the right game, it's okay. Yeah. I'm not bothered when a game says, come back, check us out. Like, I was going to.
Yeah.
You don't have to remind me, but thanks for reminding me at the same time. It's really interesting to review things at a quicker pace.
Yes.
It's one thing to pick a game that you think you might enjoy and spend time with it.
Sure.
You're going to be biased a little bit. It's another thing to kind of randomly pull one out of an inbox and say, I'll take this one.
Yeah.
Because you can appreciate how, movie critics, how they could take a crap on a movie.
Yeah.
You're like, wow, how can they score that so bad?
Yeah.
Because you're forcing somebody to sit through something for 2 hours that they can see this is poorly acted, poorly written. It's really interesting to do that with apps and games, to start to identify, like, oh my god, this is the worst app experience that I've seen in a long time because of all of the ads, or just the way this thing is broken. So that's been an interesting exercise for me. I don't know if it'll jade me, make me a little bit more cynical.
Sure.
But that's been a lot of fun for me. Luke, I've got some topics here we wrote down to get through. Let's start with some mobile related.
Okay.
Or connected home, smart stuff. I put you wise to the McDonald's app this morning.
You did. Yeah, that's pretty awesome, man. So the McDonald's app, if anybody listening likes McDonald's, we're all, we have been swayed by the golden arches here at Android Guys, and their mobile app is very impressive for a fast food company.
Yeah.
It sounds like that's the idea in my head, but then when I think objectively about McDonald's, they're a multi-billion-dollar company.
If anybody's got money to throw at a developer,
exactly,
it should be them.
It makes sense. It's not just here's our menu and here are our locations.
Yeah.
It's more than that.
Well, and that's the thing is this conversation came about because you offered to grab me something from McDonald's this morning.
Did, yeah.
And I said, I'm about to pick up my coffee.
Yeah.
And I could have let you pay for my coffee, but I said, remind me to talk to you about the app.
Yeah.
I've had the app since early July, and I love it for a couple of reasons. Number one being there are deals and discounts in there that you don't get on the menu. Specifically coffee, you could go in there and you can order your coffee ahead of time and have it ready to pick up.
Yeah.
Or you could take the deal and just say, add to my order at the restaurant, and give them a code. But you can get a large, any size coffee for 99 cents.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So that's been what I've been doing. I've been picking up a lot more McDonald's coffee, and across the street is Dunkin'. I haven't gone back as much because, one, it's across the street and swimming upstream to turn out is tough. But it's, it's really nice because I'm going to spend the money, but now I'm getting kind of like credit for it.
Right.
It's like a loyalty program.
And all you have to do is use the app. There's no cost to it. There's no extra fee to be a member or anything. It's just log in.
There are deals that are in there that are kind of like one time only. We'll hold on to this until you're ready to use it. And then there are breakfast deals, dinner deals, and then you can create favorites of things to reorder. It's all the things that you would hope to see.
Yeah.
If you have a Starbucks app, then you're like, of course. I can do the same thing. I can pull up and give them my name. Here, you just pull up and say, "Here's my 4-digit code."
I think that for me is the thing that I was most impressed with because you're right at Starbucks you can go in and they scan your code and that's your Or at Blaze has the same thing, a loyalty program, and they scan your phone. We've seen that all kinds of places. The cool thing about the McDonald's one is you don't have to have them scan a phone. You don't even have to have your phone with you.
You don't have to know what you're ordering yet.
Yeah. You can just, you have to have your phone with you, but you don't have to interact with the person with your phone.
Yeah.
You can open the phone and they give you a unique 4-digit code for you. And it's not like my code is 1789 forever.
Yeah, it's dynamic.
It's dynamic and it changes. And they can just, plug that in and say, all right, Luke, what do you want?
Yep. And that's what's great is I'll sometimes know that I'm just going to grab a coffee and I'll go in my driveway, order it, and, pull up and then just say, here's my order code.
Yeah.
But then there are times where I'll decide, I guess I want, maybe I want something else. You can add these deals to your order and then just give them the code and say, here, they apply the coupons, and then you finish your transaction at the drive-thru and can pay at the window.
Right.
So you can prepay on their phone or pay at the window and kind of add a coupon. So McDonald's app, pretty tight.
Yeah.
Let's not kid ourselves. Everybody eats McDonald's.
Sure.
And if you've got a family, you've got kids, some of those deals are pretty nice.
Yeah.
$1 large fry, buy a 20-piece nugget, get something free.
Right.
Or 2 of these for this price that you're not going to get on the menu.
Right.
And then you just get credit for your purchases.
Right.
Every so often you're like, I'm just going to use this for a free ice cream cone.
Right.
Or an apple pie. And
yeah, you get those points, and just like any other reward program, you get to spend them on rewards.
Yeah. So get that McDonald's app.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Luke, do you have a smart doorbell?
I do.
Okay. Do you like it?
I do.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing.
Yeah, I didn't think I would really use it as much as I do. It's one of those, you see like the ones that have the cameras or the ones that you can talk through to people, and you're like, oh, that'd be cool. I don't know if I would really use that much, but the one I have is the 360, and there's just you get a little notification when there's action at a certain predetermined distance by you. If there's anything 10 feet away from the sensor of my camera, let me know.
Yeah.
And, you can get those little, like, oh, cool, Amazon dropped that package off.
Yeah.
Oh, there's my email from Amazon.
I think the big hang up in the first couple of generations was that they all required a degree of wiring.
Yes.
Some kind of like, when we replaced our front door, where the doorbell was, that was actually removed because it was part of the frame.
Yeah.
So we lived for a while with no doorbell.
Sure.
And the idea of getting a smart doorbell is like, I don't know if I want to even bother trying to find the wires or reroute
or
and
run it down,
But so many of them now have wireless options, and the batteries last, weeks, months on end.
Yeah.
I've been playing with the Nest doorbell, and dude, it's awesome.
Yeah.
It really is. The new line of the Nest Cam, the Nest doorbell, they're awesome because they tie right into the Google Home app.
Yeah.
Which is quickly become the hub of all of your smart stuff.
Yeah.
Your speakers, your displays, your lights. It's really cool. I haven't put the full review up yet, but I like the fact that, as I'm sitting here and I was kind of prompted, it says person at the doorbell, so I kind of know that my son is home.
Right.
I look at the clock and I see, and if I want to, I can actually see who's at my door. And
right.
The Nest doorbell stuff is really, really cool, and priced to move too.
Yeah.
I don't have the numbers here in front of me, but when they announced it, I thought, well, yeah, they're going to sell a lot of that.
Yeah.
I've had Arlo and used those for a long time for security lights or cameras, and I've tried a couple of other doorbells. And I really like this. The design looks fully Google and Nest. Right. It's really modern. But, I like that one of the features for this is that you don't get a lot of these, like, false positives that come from, like, a car driving by. Right. Or some leaves. It's fall. Right. So as a bunch of leaves go by, sometimes you get these alerts.
Right.
You don't get that.
Nice.
It doesn't really capture and record those, but you can, anything that it does capture, like a package, you can kind of toggle the notifications and say, I want to know about these, or I just record it and I can look at it later. When I was watching the demo as part of the announcement before they put them out, it's really cool because it would actually see and identify a driver pull up and get off and walk up, and it would know that it's a person and a package, and then it would recognize the package, and then the person walk away, and then you'll know, like, I can tell all day long if things are being delivered from Amazon, and then I know that it'll say package no longer visible, and then shortly after that I'll see that either my wife or my son has logged in, used like the fingerprint reader to get into the house. So it's really cool to kind of just know what's going on without having to, like, ram it down your throat.
Sure.
But also not a bunch of, like, every time the wind blows and these trees right there in view. I definitely think, if not the Nest stuff, but I definitely think smart doorbells, smart cameras, things like that are the new wave. The old ADT, come out and wire my house and windows, and you could start as heavy as you want. If you want to go with just a doorbell, if you want to go with a floodlight, just a camera, and just kind of add to it, I would recommend that. Do you find yourself wanting to add to your home?
Yeah. I like the idea of having a smart home. I think I like the idea of having a family of things that are made to work together.
Yeah.
And I think that's a little bit of the struggle, in the situation that I'm in, where we get different kinds of products to use and review, and we use them, and most of the time they all work great, but you end up, having this certain doorbell, these certain cameras, these certain lights, this certain thermostat, and it all will be, it is all smart. It all will be connected, but it's not necessarily made to work together.
Right.
And so I think that's the thing that's so intriguing about the Nest system.
Yeah.
Is that it's all made to seamlessly work together.
Yeah. One of the really cool things is if somebody pushes the doorbell,
Yeah.
every Google speaker in my house starts to ring.
Yeah.
Smart displays, mini,
Yep.
home, all of them, you have somebody at your door. And then anything that has a screen on it, you see it right away.
Yeah.
Where I know in the past with some of the other brands is you have to open up the app real quick and see what it is.
Right.
Interact with or send your messages, whatever, through the apps. It's definitely something that, there are getting to be more and more players casting wider nets.
Yes.
So to get into, not just to say, yes, go for the Nest.
Right.
But UFI, Arlo, a couple of players, they escape me at this point, but if you're going down that road, Ring, of course.
Yeah.
Definitely, if you can, stick with one.
Yeah.
Because I think you'll be better served by doing that.
Right.
Yeah, so look for a review for that on Android Guys here, hopefully within the next couple of days or so. You want to talk about some non-tech stuff?
Yeah. What we got?
Well, we've got, you want to go with movies, books,
Sure. Yeah.
TV?
Let's do movies. The first one you said. Let's see. We both watched a movie that we could talk about. It is The Guilty.
Yes.
On Netflix. That's a Jake Gyllenhaal movie. Essentially a one-man movie.
Yeah. Yeah.
Very similar to that Ryan Reynolds movie where he was trapped in...
Was it Buried Alive?
Yeah, or Buried or something like that. So Jake Gyllenhaal plays this 911 call operator, and over the course of his night, he gets a call that is very disturbing, and it just turns into what can he do from where he is to help this situation other than just take the call and notify the correct authorities.
Yeah.
I really liked this movie. I think the story has a twist that I didn't necessarily see coming, which was, not to toot my own horn, but I was impressed that I didn't guess it.
Yeah.
Because I've seen a lot of movies, and
you're no dummy.
I'm no dummy. We've seen, we can kind of guess from all of the, shows we watch or movies we watch. I'm guessing if this is happening and this is happening, probably this will happen.
Well, things that aren't necessarily done well telegraph way too early.
Sure.
And you're like, oh, if this happens, I'm going to be so upset.
Right. Or you go, okay, we're only 20 minutes into this movie. There's no way that this is the resolving the main conflict already.
Way too early for the third act payoff.
Right.
Like this has got to be setting up for the second act conflict.
But this movie pulls off that twist in such a great way.
And without... And we're not a movie podcast, so we have to be careful how we talk about it without being too revealing.
Right.
I'll leave that alone. I don't want to go down that road.
Yeah.
So what did you think of his performance?
I thought his performance was great.
Yeah.
I mean, he has a wide range. We've seen, from Donnie Darko to
Bubble Boy
to Brokeback Mountain, Prisoners,
Yeah.
and then Spider-Man, obviously,
A little bit of everything.
Zodiac.
Yeah.
But this, or Nightcrawler, the other.
You want me to get out IMDb and just go down the list?
Yeah, no. Let's just anyway.
But that's your point, though, is there are all these different types of roles that all require a little bit something else. But you're right. He was awesome.
In this one, I mean, it's essentially there are some other characters that you see on screen, but for the most part, the whole movie is him in front of the camera, interacting with people on a phone.
Yeah.
And the other actors from, who the other actors are that play some of those people on the phone, the voice acting is phenomenal.
Yeah.
But his performance, by the end of the movie, you're like, man, I really feel for this guy.
Yeah, he runs through a lot of emotions. It isn't like he's like a down on his luck poor guy, and you're like, man, he really nailed that part. No. But he goes through this whole
there's parts in the
ups and
early
downs
in the movie that you're like, this guy's kind of sucks.
Yeah, like
this guy's a jerk.
I'm kind of glad he's stuck at a desk,
right?
And isn't out.
Yeah, I can see why. Yeah, because they, without giving anything away, they allude to, maybe why he's here right now.
Yeah,
and you're like, oh, this makes sense for this guy because I can see, how he got here.
Yeah.
But then by the end of it, you're like, oh man. Mm-hmm. And so the other thing about the movie is it's the subject matter. He's a 911 operator. The subject matter is pretty intense.
Yeah, for sure.
And I think maybe the impact of that, based on the parallels like of my life, or I could kind of understand how that character would think that certain way, based on how I think about that certain way, that might have, colored my thoughts of his performance, but it was still a great performance.
Well, I also think that what made it interesting to watch was that it kind of has this Jaws effect. The shark is scarier because you don't see it.
Yes.
So the things that are happening on the phone, you're picturing in your head.
Yeah.
Because it's, and that's sometimes worse than, like a Stephen King adaptation.
Yeah.
You
don't ever see a monster. This monster's scarier.
Yeah, the book was scarier because I pictured this. So,
right.
Yeah.
And the other thing is the movie takes place really in like 3 different rooms.
Yeah.
It's a very small set, very small.
Totally feels like a COVID film, right?
Right.
Like the space between the characters, not having very many people even on the set at once.
Yeah.
But you don't feel like, oh, this is the best they could come up with because they were forced to work with COVID. But wow, they did a pretty good job. And I actually saw that the director filmed and did a lot of it from a van.
Oh, really?
Instead of actually being on the set.
Yeah.
Because of he was exposed to somebody, so as a kind of like a mitigating factor, he wasn't even there.
Wow.
In the room while they were doing that stuff. So it was totally a COVID related production. But
interesting.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's one definitely to check out if you're looking for something to watch on Netflix. The Guilty with Jake Gyllenhaal. Any other movies you want to talk about?
Well, I just recently saw No Time to Die.
Ooh.
You did not, so I'll be careful
I know.
As to how I discuss
had plans, but life finds a way.
Yeah. I think it's a good movie.
Yeah?
I like Daniel Craig as Bond.
Yes.
And I like the the last, was it 5 movies maybe? Mm-hmm. I've gone to see them all at the theater. Mm-hmm. Love them. Kind of forget about them.
Gotcha.
It's a weird thing.
Yeah.
Like, and even halfway through the movie, I'm like, is this movie too smart for me?
Yeah.
And then at the end, you're like, no. Oh, I'm good. I'm on the same, Mm-hmm. But then when I revisit them, I did the last couple of them in the spring right during COVID. And I enjoyed them more, mm-hmm. if only because I had some kind of like a larger arc.
Yes.
Of the character. And the story.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they did kind of have this narrative throughout.
Sure.
I think No Time to Die does a great job of putting a button on that.
Yes.
Another case of, man, there's a lot going on. Mm-hmm. I don't know if is there some kind of, who's working what,
right.
doing
Am
what?
I missing something?
Yeah.
Sure.
Did I doze off?
Did I forget about something?
Yeah. Like, was I looking at my bag of popcorn for too long and missed that? Like,
right.
But no, I think it feels just as consistent as the other ones, and it's great to kind of come back to the characters again.
Yeah.
Felix, Jeffrey Wright, I love his character. I like Jeffrey Wright,
sure,
but his character, Zimmer did the score, so I'm a big fan of his.
Yeah.
But there were a couple points where I was like, boy, this feels a lot like Dark Knight score.
Oh, okay.
It was like the tension, the building, kind of like, oh, this feels a little derivative, but then it would segue into some Bond themes. Mm-hmm. I will be interested to have this conversation with you after you see it.
Sure, right.
But it definitely... I'll just stop there. I don't want to talk too much more about that.
All right.
But yeah, I would definitely recommend it. If you've seen the other ones, do yourself a favor and see this one.
Cool.
It might, I don't want to say necessarily have to see it in the theater to pay off like the scope of anything.
Sure.
But first chance you get to see it.
Do you recommend brushing up on the kind of the narrative thread going through the other movies? Or does it do a good job of kind of catching you up?
It does bring you up to speed, kind of thing, but you'd probably feel better if you did have a refresher.
Okay.
All the way back to Casino Royale.
All right. I love that movie.
Yeah. I just watched that on TV last night.
Yeah.
I changed channel and it was on. I was like, I'll be staying here for a while.
Mads Mikkelsen is so great in that movie.
Yeah, he's one of the torture scene.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah. Yep.
He's such a good villain.
Yeah. I need to get a milky eye.
Yeah, right?
I can't give the look, though. I would either laugh because you're looking at my milky eye, trying to, like, work backwards as to how I had it.
Yeah.
Or be like, not make eye contact with people because I'm afraid they're going to see it and think I'm a dummy. Like, who's the guy with this white milky eye? Yeah. Let's I know what we could talk about.
All right.
Your son.
Yes.
Is...
Oh, God. All right. So I have an 11-year-old. And if you know anything about 11-year-olds today, they communicate in memes. This is the culture that we live in.
And they wear Under Armour.
Yeah. Or tie-dye now.
Yeah.
And, yeah. So one of the memes that's been going around, and it's so funny because these memes, depending on the kid, generally these kids are catching these memes late. These memes become popular late, and so we all saw the memes going around when Fast 9 was out. F9 of everything is family. Dom Toretto, because family, and so my son was talking about Dom Toretto, and I was like, "Do you even know who that is?" And he's like, "Yeah, he's like the family's important guy." I'm like, "Oh, dude." like it's there's like a whole series of movies. Like this guy Dominic Toretto is like, it's all the Fast and Furious. He's like, oh, I was like, all right, we gotta watch these movies.
I'm sorry. I know this is a podcast and it's audio, and I'm trying not to ruin it, but I'm really trying not to laugh.
I know.
Because I love it.
I know.
I can see your son not getting what he's doing.
Yeah.
So.
Like, you don't even know why that's funny.
Yeah. Like
and
you don't know why that was funny back in May.
Yeah. So we started watching the Fast and Furious saga, and we're up to we just finished 4 the other night, and so it's been fun. I mean, those movies came out like
20 years.
Yeah, I mean, it's been. I didn't realize how long it's been since those movies came out.
You're not even at a point yet where it really lays the family on thick yet.
No.
He hasn't, disappeared and gets called back because of family, or they haven't come to attack his family.
It's just starting, now.
It's going to be really interesting to see his reaction
Yes.
to where the story goes from, like, some street racing, stealing DVD players to
super
outer
soldiers.
Space. Yeah,
outer space. But yeah, so the next one is 5, and that introduces Dwayne Johnson's character.
Yeah.
So he's excited about that. He's like, "Oh, The Rock's in this?" I was like, "Yeah, dude."
It's easier to start a list of who's not in this by
basically. But man, those movies are so fun.
Yeah.
They're not great. Let's be honest. They're not. They're cheesy. They can be cheesy, especially the older movies are just. Oh,
it's weird because they took themselves seriously up until a point, and then they're like, we know what we're doing.
Yeah,
we know we're not serious, and
we can jump the shark, and it doesn't matter. And they became more comedic.
Yeah.
The second movie introduces Ludacris's character, and in that movie, he was not funny.
No.
Like, there was some funny parts with him in it, but
right.
In the movies now, and Romeo, the character Romeo, it's those two guys are playing off each other all the time now. If you're following the series, and back then. Like, it was just everybody's trying to be tough.
Yep.
And it was just so oof. It's been fun rewatching those movies, and he's all into downloading racing games for his phone now, and
the series has done this to him.
Yeah, he's wants to play car games and
God,
talk about cars and stuff like that. And I'm like, oh man, this is,
has he asked you to tune the car yet?
Yeah.
Your family vehicle.
It's we should get some rims on the minivan, Dad.
Dad, we need NOS.
Next thing we're gonna start watching Pimp My Ride, I think.
Yeah, well, that was a whole.
I mean, that was the whole culture.
For a while, man.
Everything exploded. And that. I think that was the fun part, is that culture was such a niche culture, and that those movies brought that to the forefront.
Yeah.
And, the first couple movies you can really see oh yeah, people didn't really know about performance cars, and there was these 3 cars or these 3 things, and then, then you had Fast and Furious Tokyo Drift, which brought in a whole nother side of, that import modeled cars, and it's fun. Those, if you can't look at them with a too critical of an eye, obviously, but if you're there to have fun and just a good popcorn movie.
Now, do you have to have conversations with them about the way the women are dressed at the races in the first, no, son, at the time this was made, it was okay to sexualize women.
No, it was never okay. Let's be clear there.
This is
but yeah, no, it's
Hollywood thought it was.
Yeah, it was it just looked like a music video.
Yeah, everything is real vibrant colors,
Yeah.
and everybody is just gorgeous.
Yeah.
And everybody's handsome and
Right.
muscular. And,
Right.
And it doesn't matter. Your car is unique.
He's like, he did say, he's like, why aren't they getting pulled over?
Ever.
I was like, well, it's a great question.
Son, wait till the government asks them for help.
You have no idea what's about to happen.
Oh, boy. So Fast and Furious Saga, man.
Yeah, man.
Enjoy the rest of that ride. That wasn't...
Yeah.
It wasn't deliberate when I started to say it.
Yeah,
and then as I finished it,
Yeah.
I'm sorry. That was terrible. Let's move over to TV real quick.
Yeah.
A couple of shows. One I just finished. One that you're mostly through.
Yeah.
And then also everybody else on the planet seems to be watching.
Yes.
The Squid Game.
Yeah.
My son started to watch this before I did, but not because he got onto it before me. But
Okay.
because I was actually like, nah, I don't know. It seems interesting. There's a lot of hype around this, and I'm usually one of those like, I like to be there first.
Yeah.
I like to be a hipster sometimes.
Yeah, right.
I don't want to go and be like, hey Scott, have you seen this yet? No. Well, you have to. Everybody has seen it. Like,
Well, now I don't want to.
at all.
Yeah.
But I did. Just finished it over the end of the week. You're most of the way through it? Halfway?
A little under halfway.
Okay. I gave you more credit than...
Yeah, I'm sorry.
What do you think of that?
It's awesome. I really like it. I think it's a really fun idea for a show. I'm interested to see how it pays off.
Yeah.
Because it's such an interesting look. It's like that mix of like it does similar things to like what Black Mirror does. It says, "Hey, what if this happened?
Yeah.
What if this could happen?
What would this say about society
Right.
if you found out this was going on?
Right.
Or how would you feel? Yeah. I really like the premise of it. I'm really happy to see a new property.
Yeah.
And we've had discussions about so many things are derivative and
Sure.
adaptations and expanding
Remakes.
on. Yeah. But this was nice to see something refreshing. I didn't feel like there was anything where I'm like, oh, this is a knockoff of this.
Sure.
It definitely has some ingredients of other things. I mean,
Yeah.
you feel like, oh, there's a little bit of, maybe Hunger Games here.
Right.
But at the same time, it kind of takes place in a modern society. I look forward to talking to you after this is over.
Yeah.
I don't know if this was intended to be a standalone or if it's a series, so there's chatter about where do they go from here.
Right.
I don't know if I want to go from here.
Yeah, I don't. I think that's always the fine line on stuff like this is, does something need a second season?
Yeah, because it has runaway success and
Right.
the best numbers ever on Netflix. Do you want the conversation to be, it's not as good as this first season?
Right.
Or just leave it.
Yeah.
And just say, man, that was crazy.
Yeah.
I mean,
And say, do you say, oh, people love this idea, let's go again, or this person came up with a good idea, let's give them a green light for something else?
Yeah.
I kind of wish sometimes that would happen more often. Of like, hey, you made this idea work. What else do you have? Instead of do it again.
Yeah. Because it is really easy to hit the same beats and let's give them everything they love, more of it.
Right. Well, and the thing is
it's
give
me something new.
It's already pretty over the top.
Yeah.
How do you push that even farther?
Well, then you're treading into like Saw territory.
Right.
Oh, you love Saw. Wait till we show you the puzzles of the new one.
Right.
We're gonna dial up the stakes and
Right.
yeah. I don't know how I'd feel if they said we green light for season 2.
Right.
Obviously, I would tune in to check it out.
Sure.
But I'm okay if they're like, thanks everybody for making us a tremendous success. I liked where it landed. I don't know if I loved where it landed.
I've heard that.
So I welcome a further fleshed out conversation with you. Later on. Other TV shows that you've been checking out? I know you had mentioned at one point you were starting on Why, The Last Man?
Yeah, so I have 2 Hulu shows. One I'm caught up as much as I can be. That's Only Murders in the Building.
Okay.
This is a Hulu show with Steve Martin and Martin Short and Selena Gomez.
Yes.
And they are all tenants of an apartment building in New York. And they are true crime podcast listeners. And then...
Listeners or producers?
Listeners.
Okay.
Something happens in their building, and they decide to start a podcast about it.
Aha.
And the characters are diverse, and they're this kind of they're brought together by their love of true crime, and then this situation happens, and things go on from there, and it's fun. It's a fun show. There's it's good acting. There's Nathan Lane's in it too. There's a lot of good heavy hitter actors, and it doesn't feel like people are competing for screen time or competing in the same scene, because they're just good and they're just playing characters, and it's fun. It's silly. If you've done a podcast or do a podcast or listen to a podcast, you'll get a lot of things. You're like, oh, yeah, I've experienced that, or I understand that because I've heard that on the other shows. And, they talk about, the one guy is a director, and so people will be saying stuff, and he's like, okay, now say it like this. Or can you say that again, but maybe be a little bit more sad?
Yeah.
And it's like, that's not...
No, it's not authentic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's a good show. It's a fun show. It's there's 11 episodes, and I believe 9 have aired now.
Okay.
So there's only 2 more episodes. I don't remember if it was already greenlit for a season 2. I believe so. But yeah, it's a good one to hop into and have some fun. That was one of those ones where I heard a lot of my friends talking about it, like, hey, you need to check this out, because I, been doing podcasting for a while, and it was like, I don't really want to. Yeah. I really love Steve Martin, but Martin Short,
he can rub you the wrong way sometimes.
Yeah, he's hit or miss for me, and I was like, I don't know. It just them two together, and then Selena Gomez is, she's Selena Gomez. It's
right. Three different flavors. Do they go in the same recipe?
It just didn't really sound like a thing that would, be fun. But it's good. It's funny. It's I'm interested to see what's going to happen in the story, and interested to see how they continue it on.
Yeah.
I
have a big problem when people try to tell you to watch a show.
I know.
Because if I listen to people, I am recommended shows like The Big Bang Theory.
Yeah.
And they're like, dude, you're going to love it. It's everything that you are. It's like such a nerd stuff, and I can't believe it's not your favorite show. I hate it.
Yeah, because it's a parody of the things I like.
Oh, and it's just, I could go on and on.
Well, and just people have different humor. And it's, a lot of it's, oh, I've heard you make jokes about this, and they made a joke about that, so you'll like it. Right. I don't really like it, because that joke is...
Yeah, you have a lot of the same stuff in your office that they have on their...
set.
It's like... Yep, I'm... and comedy specifically is so subjective.
Yeah.
It's if everybody knows a good drama.
Yeah.
Everybody knows a good horror film for the most part, aside from like jump scares and stuff. But people know good acting. Mm-hmm. It's really hard to say this is funny, because that's so subjective. Yeah. So when people recommend certain shows, I'm like, I don't know, dude. I'd rather come to it myself. I'd rather, through osmosis, figure out that this is for me.
Right. If I saw the trailer and I wasn't like, oh, I need to watch this, then I don't know if I actually need to watch it. If you're telling me, if I saw it and was like, and then you're like, oh, it's awesome, you got to see it. One, it depends on who that's coming from, right? But at the same time, if it's like, I feel like that's just following the hype. If everybody likes it.
Like, I don't know, bro. I think didn't you used to watch JAG and NCIS? I remember going over to your house and you were always watching Walker, Texas Ranger. Like,
don't you have a Blue Bloods poster on your wall?
No, it's Magnum PI.
Oh, I forgot.
Same guy, different.
I mean, Tom Selleck's mustache, dude.
Wow,
that's like that's a national treasure.
So it's really hard to recommend, which is why even talking about him here,
right,
is like I want to tell people check it out, but like I don't know how qualified my opinion is. For them.
I mean, I think that's what it goes into with this for us is we know everything is subjective, but if you like our personalities, or you seem to, like, oh, I tend to agree with the things that Scott thinks. Yeah. I'll give it a try. And that's what this show is about, basically, is just catching you up on some stuff maybe that we've talked about in the regular show that you missed, or to kind of give, a little bit, cursory thoughts on things, but then also just talk about other things that aren't tech that, are bubbling around the... Yeah,
there's a lot of things that, like in our Slack channel, and I talk to different guys in the team, there's a lot of things that pop up and everybody gets excited about and want to talk about, and this is kind of an audio version of that. Right. Like, lets us let our hair down.
Right. Let's just relax and
grab our favorite drink. And, So, what was the other show that you...
So, the other show is Why the Last Man, and that is the show based on a comic book, a comic series, and the idea is that there is a virus that happens, and all the men in the world die, and there's one guy left. And the show is just, starts from where the comic started, basically, and it's an adaptation. I didn't read the comics, so I don't know how close it is, but I always heard that, that series was great, and so I was like, all right, I'll give this show a chance. It's, seems interesting, and so far it's pretty good. It's not, I'm 2 episodes in, so I don't, I can't say like, hey, watch it.
It's an FX show, right?
I think so. I'm watching it on Hulu, but yeah, I'm pretty sure it's FX. It's cool. It's a cool idea. Definitely a cool idea. It's interesting how some of this stuff weaves together of, learning who this character is and, the characters around him and kind of looking at, it's an interesting, what if this happened? How would the world respond? What does that look like in the U.S.? What does that look like in other countries? What are the implications of, if this would happen, what does that look like for, the big one, the continuing of the human race, but then also what does that look like for just half of the population being gone? It's like the snap, right? Yeah. From Avengers, what happens when half the people are gone? There's infrastructure things that have to happen, or there's this person knew the codes for this, or this person had this knowledge and now they're gone. And, how do you continue on with clinical trial research on things and just all that kind of stuff that you're like, oh yeah, these are problems that would have to be solved.
Yeah.
So it's interesting to see some of those ideas come up.
And I'm looking here, and it said that the comic series ran from 2002 to 2008. Does the show set it in that time, or is it modernized?
From what I can tell, it seems modern, but at the same time, it's hard to make any TV from 2000 something on seem aged, unless there's a lot of tech involved.
Yeah.
Because everything still, fashion wise is still pretty much the same. Nothing seems too dated, so it feels like it's, would be happening now, not then. Yeah, it's a good one. It's interesting so far. I like it. And I don't feel like you have to have read the comic series to know what's happening. They do a pretty good job of saying, here's the situation.
I never read it, but I'm, aware of certain properties that are like, hey, this is finally getting an adaptation. Yes. Hey, they're making this, and I've been waiting for years for.
Right.
And that was one that I saw kind of kicked around for a while. And when it has, it arrived, I thought, okay, maybe that's for me.
Yeah.
Why I didn't go to the graphic novels and comics, it's hard to say. I mean, at that time, it just wasn't part of my life. But I am intrigued by it. I like, I don't want to call it dystopian, but I like alternate reality type stuff.
Yeah.
Especially when it's like all of a group, or like Children of Men.
Right.
Like the concept of whoa, what do we do?
Yeah.
If suddenly that happens.
Yeah. It's like, what was that other, there was a show, The 99, that was like.
And The Leftovers.
The Leftovers. Yep.
So those types of wow, this happened and we got to figure out what to do.
Right. So it's very much feels like one of those other shows, but it's just a new take on that situation.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's another TV show that I've been checking out.
Cool, man. You want to do? You have any books?
Yeah, dude.
Oh, nice.
So speaking of TV shows, there is from Amazon. There is a series debuting on November 19th. It is the Wheel of Time series, which is a book series by an author named Robert Jordan. And it is, I want to say it's like a 15-book series now. But this is it's going to be a TV series put out by Amazon, an Amazon original series. It's got some great actors in it. Rosamund Pike is slated to be the lead character. And I'm a big, fantasy guy. I play D&D all the time. I love, fantasy settings and fantasy movies and stuff like that.
Do you like the Mariah Carey song Fantasy?
One of my favorites. I like the Ludacris song Fantasy more.
Yeah. Now, thoughts on the reboot series Fantasy Island?
But this, so I wanted to know because that series is coming out, I wanted to know more about it because those worlds are always interesting to me. I think the thing that's most interesting is how they use magic, what is the magic in this world? It's very.
What are the rules here?
Yeah, what are the rules of magic? Why does magic exist? What is it? And this is an interesting idea, and so I've also been looking for books I am not like a physical book reader.
Yeah.
I get lost in the page and my mind wanders. So I listen to audiobooks a lot, and I do a fair amount of driving. So I usually have time to put in for books. And this is one that, you know, I have two friends that read the whole series and they love them. And, you know, now that this was coming out, I was like, you know what, I'm gonna start listening to this to also see, you know, maybe I really like reading the book and then watching a movie to see kind of like how they bridged certain issues, like in for example, the Hunger Games series. So those books were, you know, youth fiction, easy reads. Read those books before the movie came out, and a lot of those books are narrated in thought. It's what the character's thinking, and how do you? The interesting thing on that one was, you know, how do you make a movie where a lot of your information comes from the thoughts of the character,
right?
And so I wanted to, you know, read this book to know what is the story that they're telling and how are they telling, you know, how are they planning to tell this 15-book saga? You know, that's a lot of material.
And what really is also a challenge is if something's always been from a person's perspective,
right?
Certain things happen off screen or at different times. How do you bring that to life,
right?
In a way that says this is a narrative,
yes,
and not somebody's recollection of,
right?
That's cool.
But so far, I'm like 2/3 way through the first book, and I'm excited for the show because I'm excited to see the interpretation of these scenes that are happening in the book. I mean, it's a fantasy setting, and there's, you know, monsters and magic and, you know, a big quest. And it's interesting to see, knowing that at the end of this book, you know, maybe this quest will be finished, maybe not.
Right.
But how, you know, is the first season of the show, is that like the first 2 books put together?
Sure.
Or is it just, is season like book by book? Is there, I mean, are we in for
that many
15
seasons?
Years of this show now?
Yeah.
So I'm excited. It seems like this could be a long haul for the show. If it's done well and it has good reception, I feel like it will, because of, you know, who's involved, and it seems like they're taking their time and trying to do it right.
Amazon seems to be at a certain point now.
Yeah.
Where they've had some of their shows and they just haven't been like the huge talked about stuff that Netflix had. Right. Even to some degree Hulu, like Handmaid's Tale and some of those originals. But the pipeline of what Amazon's got going on right now is really exciting to me.
Yeah.
Like Lord of the Rings, you know, heading back to Middle Earth.
Yep.
And I just saw something recently that said they're in talks with Howard Shore to do the music again.
Really?
So I don't know to what degree that.
Yeah.
But his music was very
integral in those movies.
Yeah. So that's Wheel of Time?
Yeah, Wheel of Time series by Robert Jordan. I'm listening it on Audible. But you can get it, obviously you can pick the books up at the library. They've been out for years.
Are you able to work and listen to books like at a
I'm
desk?
not able to work on something that I need to, like I can't edit video while that's playing. I can't like type words. But if I'm
mowing the grass and pulling weeds all day,
doing that kind of stuff, or painting
Yeah.
figures. If I'm, doing some hobby stuff, I can listen to that. And that's actually better because I don't have to look at a screen. I can focus on what I'm doing and still listen.
Yep.
I've grown to love audiobooks.
Man, no kidding. I don't know if I ever thought of them as a cheat.
Sure.
Because I've always I've always loved to read. I've always loved books. When e-readers came about, Kindles and Nook and all these other things, it was like, I can put how many books on this thing?
Yeah.
And have them all with me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
I'm in. And then with Audible, it was, I can listen to the book wherever I am and, spend the time with it. And I'm the same way. I can't listen to an audiobook and work.
Right.
But I can listen to a podcast all day and work.
Right.
I can listen to YouTube videos and work. But when it comes to like genuine story engagement, I will find myself stopping and going, wait, how did they get there?
Yeah, what did I miss?
I thought the last time I checked in, this guy was doing this.
Yeah.
And now why is this guy mad?
Right.
So I reserve my audiobooks, at least for fiction, for putting together Lego.
Yeah.
Messing around with clay and pottery, yard work, and just commutes, things like that. So one of my favorites is one book that I listen to. I return to it yearly, and I have been for about 10 years now.
Oh, wow.
It's 11/22/63 by Stephen King.
Okay.
Have you ever read? Or
I have not read. I watched the show.
Okay, so you've done yourself a disservice.
Okay.
You've also disappointed me.
Oh, jeez.
No, which is really the worst thing you could do.
Right, yeah.
So the premise is this, and I will definitely put over the Audible version of this over the book.
Yeah.
If you like to read it.
Yeah.
If you have never come to reading or podcasts or Audible or anything and you haven't decided, I would recommend starting with the Audible version.
Yeah.
The the narration is Craig Wasson is the name of the guy if you're looking, because I know there are sometimes different versions. The premise is actually different in the show than it is from the movie.
Oh, okay.
It's close, very close, but it takes it. That show should have been, I'd say, 13 episodes.
Wow.
Or more.
Wow.
And not the 8.
Yeah.
I would even say that could have gone 20.
Wow.
Because there's that much story.
Interesting.
The premise for anybody who doesn't know is the protagonist has a friend. He's a high school English teacher, and he's got a friend that he knows or somebody in town that has a diner and has operated this diner for many years. And his name is Al, and Al has discovered that he has a pantry that has basically a portal back into time.
Okay.
He discovers it on accident, but essentially every time you go into this portal, you are taken back to a specific day, September 1958, at exactly the same time every time. You are allowed to spend as much time as you want there. You can do whatever you want, interact, live. And then when you're done, you can come back.
Yeah.
But only 2 minutes will have elapsed in today's time. So
2 minutes, no matter how long you're in there?
No matter how long you're in there.
Oh, my gosh.
So you and I have a conversation. You say, hey, I'm going to run to the restroom real quick. You're gone. You could have gone to that portal and lived 8-10 years and come back. For me, it's only been 2 minutes. What do you do with that time? How far back would you go to where you're like, okay, now it's time for me to go back to the people that I love. They're going to miss me. Well, I don't miss you because it's only been 2 minutes.
Right.
But you're going to come back 8 years older.
Aged.
You're going to come back having spent that time really there.
And having 8 years of experience.
And you may have developed cancer.
Oh, wow.
You may have gotten sick or come back having added or lost a bunch of weight. So that's really not the premise of the story. That's almost the setup to the first step into the time.
Yeah.
You know, since it goes back to 1958, Al tasks Jake with the idea of saying, hey, I was back there for quite a couple of years, and I was really close to completing this task, but I need you to go back and do it. I want you to go back to 1958, live for 5 years, and then in 1963, I want you to stop Lee Harvey Oswald from killing John F. Kennedy.
Oh, wow.
So that's one thing to kind of weigh is, do you do that? Can you go back and do that? The twist is every time somebody goes through that portal, everything resets. The board is back to the way it was. So you go back to 1958, spend 6 years in there, do whatever. You stop Lee Harvey Oswald. You come out. I go through the portal. It resets the timeline. So every time you go back, it starts over.
So you could go back and stop him, and then you come back out, and that never happened.
Find out the repercussions of what happened.
But, you know, it never happened. Kennedy lived his life, but if I go in there, I reset it, and it did happen.
Yeah. Or you go back and go, well, I'm only going to go back and spend the half hour there because there was ice cream across the street that I loved. The second you go back, it's all done. It's
all reset.
Time has lapsed and done everything again. So that is a really interesting discussion to have is, you know, would I be willing to do that? Would I have it in me to try to stop him?
Yeah, would you risk losing the progress you made
in life? Risk getting hurt, getting killed, risk just dying naturally in the 50s or 60s. So there are a couple of things that happen to in the story. The big thing is that time does not want to be changed. The more you try to affect the change of time, the more time pushes back on you. So if you go back and you say, all I'm going to do is I'm going to stop this old lady from crossing the street, you know, it's no big deal. But I'm going to go back and stop somebody who I know gets killed. There are a lot of obstacles in the way, and it could be your car breaks down, the bridge is out, you get sick, you've got food poisoning, anything like that. But then you can imagine how much the universe pushes back against stopping John F. Kennedy from getting killed.
Right.
So the bigger the task, the more the universe tries to. And there are a lot of themes that are repeated in the story of the past is obdurate, doesn't want to be changed. But so how do you fill 5 years of story?
Right.
You're like, okay, so I'll decide I'm going to go back to stop John F. Kennedy from getting killed. There's a whole thing in this book of how he spends that 5 years. And he goes to different towns, different states. He falls in love. And to me, it's it's absolutely my favorite book of all time. Fiction-wise, easily. Just because it feels, it makes me really nostalgic for a time that I've never experienced.
Sure.
And a place that I've never been.
Sure.
And it also, because it's Stephen King, it touches a little bit on some of his, one of his other properties, story-wise. If you've ever seen or read it, there's a nice little nod in there. And he does that in some of his books. But for me, I recommend the audio version because it's like almost 40 hours. And I recommend listening to it at 1x because you really get to live with these characters and the voices, and you're not, but even though it's like this guy that's got like kind of a raspy voice, the first time you hear him affect a woman's voice, you're like, oh, that's kind of weird. But I know how these characters sound, and they sound like him.
Right.
It's I always listen to it this time of year because the first time I listened to it was right around this time, and it starts out in September. I mean, I always go back in October, but yeah, that was for books.
Yeah,
I would say 11/22/63.
Cool.
Easily.
Nice.
Go for the audio version of that.
Okay.
I mean, we're at about an hour 15 here already.
We've talked about a lot.
A lot of things. One thing that we have coming up that I think will be exciting and to talk about is Dune.
Yes.
Because we talk about books, adaptations, remakes, and if things deserve to be seen on the big screen.
Sure.
And also the idea you kind of jogged my memory was things that are told from like somebody's personal perspective and narrations and thoughts.
Yes.
And that's all Dune is.
Yes.
Is that first movie is so weird because it's all these like it's thoughts.
Yeah.
Emotionless feeling like thoughts. So I'm looking forward to that one.
Yeah.
Anything else coming up that you're excited to see?
I mean, we're right on the cusp of more MCU goodness. Eternals is coming up.
Is a few weeks away. Yeah.
I'm excited for that, and then right after we're going to see Spider-Man. So it's big time for MCU. And
right around that time, we're going to run into some Book of Boba Fett.
Yes.
We'll be talking. We can almost do our own standalone podcast on.
Listen, don't get me. Don't tempt me with a good time.
So I know that this is a completely different podcast than people might have expected.
Yeah, probably a lot longer than you thought it would be.
Yeah, and maybe, hopefully, gives people a chance to say, "Oh, I understand these guys a little bit better.
Yeah,
I know what goes into this guy. I know what he's interested in. I know why he might not like this or his life. Talking about like different products that we review. Well, yeah, of course he doesn't care that much about that because he's not into that.
Right.
So my hope is to do these maybe weekly.
Yeah.
With different things that we're into, other things, other apps, products, games.
Yep.
But even things of like, we love to try new foods and snacks and drinks. And so this will be our chance to.
Yeah, we're basically, I think the idea for this show is to catch you up on a little bit of the stuff we talk about normally in the show. Mm-hmm. Then also just talk about the other things that we experience throughout life and just our take on them. And it's, if you like it, if it helps you with like, oh yeah, I was meaning to check out that, or I only saw 11/22/63 the show, but maybe I want to read that book now.
Yeah.
It's not always the hot new thing. Fast 9 or the Fast Furious saga, like, oh yeah, I totally forgot about Tokyo Drift was a completely different actor and only Vin Diesel is a cameo at the end. Like, oh yeah, that was part of the show or part of the saga, but completely different. Like those things that maybe we forgot about or saying, oh yeah, I like that, or maybe it'll spark something else of, oh, I want to watch this movie then, or that made me think of this book. I want to check out this book again.
Yeah, and likewise, if you're listening and you have something you're like, oh, I think you guys would be into this.
Yeah.
Do that.
Yeah.
Let us know.
Yep.
I feel like the more you know us.
Yeah.
And if there's a product or something you're like, oh, I'd love to see what you guys think of this.
Right. That's
really why we're here.
Yeah. And I mean, all kinds of stuff. I mean, we are pop culture connoisseurs and pop culture, ingesters. So like TV, movies, comics, books, music.
Yeah.
We're big music guys too. Anything.
Board games, card games.
Board games for sure. Video games. Tell us what you're into. And we're always looking for new things.
Luke, if somebody wanted to get a hold of you specifically,
yes.
Can they do that?
Yeah. The best way is through Instagram. My handle is Luke Gaul, all no spaces, LukeGaul. And
slide into your DMs.
Feel free to leave me a DM or comment on a photo. I don't really post that many photos.
Yeah.
I use it more, as a messaging. But yeah. So let me know what you think I should check out.
Get into your DMs and tell them about Fantasies.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think I was half listening when you talk about.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, and same for me. If you want to contact me, you can hit me on Twitter at swebster77 or on Instagram at Scott Webster, all together, ScottWebster. Yeah, so feel free to reach out if there's something you would like for us to check out, review. Does not have to be tech, and sometimes it's kind of appreciated when it's not, because we spend so much time in tech.
Yeah.
So that's it for me, man. I mean, I could talk way more, but
yeah, we're gonna do this weekly though. So and probably this was the first one, so it probably won't be maybe as long-winded, but also we like to talk, so
yeah,
it might be.
Give us feedback if you want more about things or less. Just say, dude, crap or get off the pot.
Right.
Did you like the movie or not?
Right.
Yeah. We're not a movie review podcast. We're not trying to do that.
Nope.
We're not trying to do that for books or TV shows or anything. But we're just really giving you some color on who we are.
Sure.
All right, Luke. You have a great day.
I will.
And you too, fellow listener.
See you guys.
Don't laugh at them.